Well, it's actually happening. Today, in August of 2023, you have colleges reinstituting their COVID mandates. You have over 100 schools putting in place vaccine mandates. You have a major Hollywood studio bringing back mask mandates, contact tracing, and even mandatory COVID tests. You have the federal government buying up brand new COVID supplies in bulk, hiring advisors, and investing over $1 billion into new vaccines. And all the while, you have the media in this country dutifully justifying all these actions as necessary to stave off another COVID outbreak. As an example of what this actually looks like in practice, let's look at the case of Brown College over in Georgia. They recently sent out this notice right here informing students and staff members about the return of these COVID mandates. But don't worry, because in the notice, they made it clear that these are just temporary measures that are being put into place for only 14 days. Here's specifically what it says, quote, "Effective immediately, Brown College has reinstated its COVID-19 mask mandate due to reports of positive cases among students in the Atlanta University Center. Over the next 14 days, the following protocols will be in place. 1. Mask wearing. All students and employees are required to wear face masks, although they were kind enough to allow staff members to remove the masks if they were alone in their own office. Secondly, students must maintain physical distance, I assume 6 feet at least. Thirdly, parties and large student gatherings have been suspended. Fourthly, isolation and quarantine measures are back for anyone who has symptoms of COVID. 5, students are expected to comply with all contact tracing measures that were implemented by the school. 6, students and staff will both have their temperatures checked upon arriving on campus. And 7, everyone is expected to use hand sanitizer at all times." But again, don't worry, because as this notice makes clear, all these different measures are only being put into place for the next 14 days, just to slow the spread. And so the students can be sure that in 2 weeks' time, everything will go back to normal. And it's also worth noting that this college in Georgia isn't alone. Schools such as Rutgers and Georgetown University still require masks to be worn indoors. Furthermore, according to No College Mandates, which is a group that tracks COVID policies in higher education throughout the country, they found that there are still over 100 schools across the nation which require students to be vaccinated in order to attend in-person classes. However, it's worth noting that it's not just schools. Corporations are also bringing back the mandates. For instance, you have Lionsgate, which is a major Hollywood studio behind movies such as The Hunger Games, John Wick, The Day After Tomorrow, among many, many, many others. And after several of their employees tested positive for COVID, the executives at Lionsgate decided to bring back the mandates. Here was what an internal email that was obtained from within the company by a media outlet called Deadline. Here's what that internal email said, quote, "Employees must wear a medical-grade face covering, either a surgical mask, KN95 or N95, when indoors, except when alone in an office with the door closed, when actively eating, actively drinking at their desk or workstation, or if they are the only individual present in a large open workspace." In another throwback to the early years of the pandemic, every Lionsgate employee is required to perform a daily self-screening prior to coming to the office each day and must notify the COVID response manager and stay home if exhibiting any symptoms or have traveled internationally in the last 10 days. The latter would impact a number of people coming in the middle of the summer vacation season. Lionsgate also is conducting contact tracing and providing at-home COVID test kits upon request. Imagine coming back from your summer vacation in the year 2023 only to find out that your company has reinstated all of their COVID mandates. Regardless, it's not even just the schools and just the businesses. Governments, both local and federal, well, they're gearing up for a supposed resurgence of COVID. For instance, in a public message, the Los Angeles Public Health Agency, they officially recommended that quote-unquote higher risk residents need to wear masks. Citing an increasing number of COVID cases, the LA County Health Agency, they suggested people to wear masks, and then they added this, quote, "To reduce risks, especially as transmission of the virus is increasing, the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health asks those more vulnerable to take precautions to reduce potential exposures. As fall approaches, all residents are encouraged to ask their healthcare provider what vaccines they should get to protect against COVID-19. The FDA and the CDC are slated to consider authorizing a new COVID-19 vaccine next month." And speaking of that 7th booster, just yesterday, the Biden administration announced a new $1.4 billion federal investment in developing the so-called next generation of COVID vaccines and treatments. Specifically, it was Mr. Javier Becerra, the current Secretary of Health and Human Services, it was him who made the announcement, adding that this funding was part of a larger $5 billion COVID-related program. Here's specifically what he said, again, just yesterday, quote, "This is an investment in expanding our country's ability to respond to the future variants that we might see coming out of COVID. It's an investment in better protecting all of our community, including those who are immunocompromised and who don't respond well to the existing vaccines." And just like Operation Warp Speed before it, this new initiative also has a clever name. It's called Project Next Gen, and here's how the money will be allocated. $1 billion of the dollars will be put towards 4 different Phase 2B clinical trial studies on a COVID-19 vaccine. Then another $326 million will go to Regeneron for a monoclonal antibody. And then another $100 million will go to Global Health Investment Corp, which, just for a reference, is a, quote, "nonprofit organization that is managing an investment portfolio known as BARDA Ventures," referring to the federal agency called Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, BARDA. The portfolio should expand investments in new technology.